25 minutes before 10 o'clock. This next story is really going to hold you. Lara Naughton is on the phone. Lara is a documentary playwright. She created works with groups such as the AIDS Project Los Angeles, the Program for Torture Victims, and others. She's a poet, a certified compassion cultivation trainer, and she's got a book. It's called The Jaguar Man. It's a memoir, and the information I got about the book says on the fourth day of what Lara Naughton thought would be 2 weeks of bliss in Belize, she was kidnapped and assaulted by a man pretending to be a cab driver. She was held in the depths of the tropical forest alone with the Jaguar Man, that she found that compassion was her only defense. This is going to be a fascinating story. The book, again, is called The Jaguar Man. Lara Naughton, wow, that's all we need to hear before we just want to sit back and hear the rest of it. Good morning, Lara. How you doing?
Oh, good morning. I'm great.
And where are you?
I'm in New Orleans.
New Orleans. Well, have fun. That's a fun city.
It is indeed. Yeah, this is where I've lived for about the last 10 years now.
Is that right? Well, thank you for being on the air with us this morning. So you were kidnapped and held in the jungle?
Yes. I was picked up by a man pretending to be a cab driver, and he pulled a knife and took me into the jungle, and that's where I was sexually assaulted and robbed. But, you know, really what I write about in the book is the interaction that we had and how it turned into this very profound experience of compassion.
Well, explain what that means. I mean, did you sympathize with him or at least empathize with him?
Well, you know, it was clear very early that I couldn't run and I couldn't overpower him, but it was also very clear that he was in his own state of pain. And in fact, he was a big talker, and so he just talked incessantly and was telling me the sorrows and the griefs of his life. And it was really obvious that I had been pulled into his madness. And so it seemed that I hoped that maybe if I could maybe care for him and help him to dissolve his anger and his grief, that maybe then I'd be okay.
Wow.
And that's in fact what happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is almost ingenious on your part, but did it mean that you had to sacrifice a lot of yourself in order to do this?
Well, I think that's a very good way of saying it. Yeah, it was clear from the get-go that the sexual assault would be part of the experience, and I just decided in my mind to deal with that tomorrow. That really what I was concerned with was not getting stabbed, and so that was a big sacrifice, so to speak. But the other part was really, I guess, finding in me the ability to care for someone who was so violent and so aggressive and who I disliked so much. You know, that strange sense of both loving and hating somebody simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you try to get away? Keep you like tied up when you weren't, when he wasn't being sexual with you?
I was tied for a bit of the time, but then really it was the knife that was in charge. And you know, at the end of the night, strangely enough, he drove me all the way back to my cabana as though he were my cab driver. You know, the situation had transformed so much that he, at the end of the night, said, "I don't want to leave you here in this place that's not safe." Ironically.
Oh, yeah.
So you were with him how long?
Many hours, all throughout the night.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So the next, as soon as you were back to your own safe place, what did you do? Did you call police?
There's no police station in the small village in Belize where I was, and there's no health clinic. So I just left early the next morning when I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and I just left the country. I did not try to figure out the Belizean judicial system or try to get medical help while I was there. So I went back to Los Angeles, and that's where I started making sense of things.
Why did you call him the Jaguar Man?
You know, of course he's a man, but also our encounter was in the middle of the jungle. He had so much strength and power, and calling him a Jaguar Man helped me to I guess, express some of my emotional feelings about him, as a predator, but also as a man, as this very scary creature. Yeah, so I create some myths around him in the book, where I allow myself to go into imagination and just imagine this man who's able to morph into animal and back to man.
When you were healing, did you talk openly to God about this incident, or did you find a clergyman?
I talked openly to many, many people. I talked openly to friends and family. I went to a priest. I went to counselors, and eventually I found some incredible spiritual guidance through a man named Reverend Michael Beckwith, and that's where I really got the most help. He helped me to understand the experience as a spiritual, from the spiritual perspective, and that has been richly rewarding.
My goodness, was writing the book itself a form of therapy for you?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's how I make sense of things, and really, I started writing just for myself to process the experience. But then it became quickly apparent that my perspective on compassion and in the face of violence is not really kind of the typical perspective, not necessarily fits with the social norm. So then the book became my contribution to this larger national debate that we're having about sexual violence and about how we care for each other or don't.
Have you spoken to other rape victims and relayed your story to them, and what was their reaction?
Yeah, I have had some opportunity to do that. Each person who I've talked with we all have our own emotional landscape around this. And what I have found is that we're all trying to understand each other. And I guess maybe as a way of understanding ourselves too. So I have not met with resistance, but I have met with some confusion. And
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Because how do we do that? We're attacked by somebody. I mean, it sounds like what you did. You found a way to say, well, this guy is hurting. He's hurting me because he's hurting, and I've got to show him compassion. And that was probably a smart thing, because you probably are alive today because of that. But at the same time, that is such a hard thing to imagine. We can't put ourselves in your shoes. It's really hard.
Well, in the moment, it was very clear. Where it became confusing was when I was home in Los Angeles, and I thought, what had just happened? In the moment, it was the only option, and it was the one that was so clearly, what was working. It didn't work quickly, but it did work. And but holding that compassion has been what's been challenging, and that's in fact what just kind of activated this whole exploration of compassion, how it works, how it can be powerful, and I guess writing the book was also a way to ask some of those questions and maybe start to have a conversation about them.
I'm just curious, because your credentials indicate that you're a talented playwright, and I'm wondering if this were a play. I'm wondering the same thing about it as a book, actually. But if it was a play, do you think an audience watching this would, let's say there was a person in the audience who had been sexually abused. Would she be suddenly having flashbacks, or would she see her abuser in a different light? What do you think would happen?
It could be all of the above. I don't know. It really depends on each person. Is so individual.
Wow.
I think that it maybe works as a book, because if a person is starting to have those kinds of responses, they could put it down, take a breath, come back to it when they're ready. That's such an interesting question. I don't know. I haven't tried it on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that book that became a movie? The 50 Shades of Grey. Well, I mean, everybody loved the book, but people were not so fond of the movie. And I don't know if there's, because maybe when you see things, it's different than reading things. Laura, I'm so glad you're okay. And I hope you never have to go through anything like that again. Did you ever go back to Belize?
I've been back many times. went back very soon after that because I was really determined not to let that experience somehow alter my love of travel, and I did not want to give in to the fear. So I did go back. I went back very cautiously.
Yeah.
But I've been back to that same village maybe 6 or 7 times since then. It's I don't blame the place. I really don't. And it's been part of the healing is to go back and to just kind of slowly make amends with the landscape and the village.
But you never saw him again, right?
No, thankfully.
Laura, thank you for being on the air with us. This is definitely one of those books that we're going to not put down. It's called The Jaguar Man. How do we get it?
Well, any of the online retailers, or you can order it from your bookstore if they don't have it in stock. Or my website has the links to everything, and that's laranaughton.com.
I think I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Lara, Lara. Lara, thank you for being on with us today. And for the listeners, we'll put this interview online as always, and put the book information on there as well. Thank you, Laura. We will take a break. We'll be right back.
Cookies, 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 cookies. We go cookie eating cookies.
When you want something special and fun for any occasion, get cookies. King Cookie in the Paddock Mall in Ocala will make a delicious, fun-filled delight just for you. So next time you're in the mall, stop by King Cookie or call 352-237-2557. KingCookieOcala.com. Customized cookies, cakes, and more. King Cookie.
Eating cookies, we're so happy eating cookies. Cookies!